Hey, welcome to Christ Church, the Inside Scoop. Man, today what we want to do is we just wanted to get together with you online and just kind of give you an inside look at what has taken place the last stretch of months. And if you are anything like us, you have probably sat around at some point and said, what in the world do we do now? And we have had that conversation repeatedly over the last stretch of months. And we keep coming back to the same question of, okay, now what do we do? And so we just kind of want to look back over the last stretch of months and kind of give you a backstage pass to how we made some of the decisions that we made, how we got to where we are today, and some of the things that we just value as a team and as a staff. And so we want to just give you an inside look at that. So I've got John here with me.
Yep, how's everybody?
And together, we're just going to kind of unpack this thing for you. And so right now you are sitting in what we call Church Online. And this is our brand new platform that we are using in order to put church online for those that either aren't local to our church or who are choosing to still stay home and practice social distancing. And for now, right now, our building, I guess, has been closed still, but we'll give you some information on that. But it's an incredible platform. And so what we want to do tonight is we want to show you a couple of the features that have to do with it. One of them is the incredible chat box that's available to you. And so some of our hosts are already sitting in that chat box having conversations with you. And so what do you think? Should we give away something?
I think we should do it, especially because we put this during the dinner hour.
So we were thinking we'll have a contest. And so get your typing fingers ready because it's going to involve your keyboard. And so we're going to have a contest. And the winner of this contest gets a pizza delivered to their house of their choosing. Whatever pizza you want, we will send it to you like now, like right now.
Dinner's covered.
Dinner's coming to you. So here's the question. Do you want to ask it or you want me to ask it?
What? I don't know what the question is.
You don't know what the question is. Okay. I will ask the question. All right. Are you ready? You got to be ready. Are you ready? Okay. The very first person to type where you're watching from.
Go.
Where are you watching from?
There you go.
This needs to be like a state. I don't care if you're watching from your living room. I want to know where, like location-wise. Where are you watching from? First person, our hosts are going to take care of that. They'll chat with you. If you are watching and you commented and you think you won, there should be a box that says chat that pops up for you. And so pay attention to that. That's how they're going to communicate with you to get your information so that we know where to send your pizza. What kind of pizza do you like?
I don't mind just cooking a frozen pizza like DiGiorno.
Boo. That's not good. That's not good at all. Yeah. Nope. I like people to make it for me and just, toss it and stuff.
I don't mind homemade either.
So anyway, so you should be on your way to getting your pizza. But what we want to do tonight, like I said, is we just kind of want to trace it back. And so I would love, John, for you just to tell everybody at home watching, and talk us through what was going on pre-COVID-19, what was going on in the life of the church.
Yeah. I mean, I had done that a while back where I shared with some people, and I think it was in here, maybe back in June. We had some volunteers in the room, and I shared that one day. Like, it was important for me to go back and just kind of be reminded of what was taking place here, because if you're a part of our church, it's been easy to forget, perhaps, or if you are new in the last couple of months, you may not even know what, Christ Church is all about or what was taking place around here at the time. And so I just went back to February 2nd, because two important things were happening. We had Fight the New Drug here, and that's when the Chiefs won the Super Bowl. So
I knew that was coming.
So if you just go back to February 2nd, and then my son, whose birthday is today, he was here 2 weeks after that, February the 16th. You think I'm weird because I know the Sundays, but it's like, listen.
He's like the Rain Man when it comes to dates and numbers.
At the end of a golf round, when they talk to a golfer, he's like, I hit that tee shot left on number 3, and then my second shot I had 147 yards in. I'm kind of that way with Sundays. But
it's weird.
Nevertheless, when we hit March, we started doing that series called Who's Your One, and it kind of got some traction, and people were excited about that. And let me pray about the one, in my life that I can start inviting and having conversations with. And March was pretty exciting because we rolled out that we were doing Connect Camp. We were going to host Connect Camp here. In June, we announced Ali Wergen was joining our staff in our kids department, and we were preparing for 3 services. So we'd got a bunch more people to serve. We were going to do that on March the 22nd. We were going to do 3 services. And up to that point, we had seen 20 people baptized just in those first 2 months this year, so that was really cool. But it was exciting if you were here, because periodically I would get up here and say, hey, sorry if you couldn't find a parking spot out there. There's so many kids in the back there. It was full, and it was exciting, and it was like, man, it was just like a good feeling.
It was a fun time to be a part of our church.
It was. And so we don't share a lot of numbers, but just for a point of reference, so on a Sunday morning plus then with our students on Wednesday night, we're a church of, over 1,000 people, and that's 1,000 people coming through our doors every week. So that's just where we were and what was happening. And like I said, getting ready for those 3 services coming up. March, I think we were planning March the 22nd. Yeah. We just didn't make it that far.
We made it to March 22nd, but not the way we thought.
Yes, we did.
So, okay, walk us through. We were planning 3 services. We had the banner already hanging up out front. We had volunteers scheduled.
That's right, yeah.
Then what?
Well, I want to go to March 11th, which was a Wednesday, and I had been trying for a long time to get some other pastors in town together. And hey, let's just learn from each other. Let's just build some trust together and see what we might be able to do in our community, get together. And we got several of them to respond and come to a lunch on Wednesday. So that was March the 11th. And then the next day, we actually said, we need to do something for this coming Sunday, let people know that we've taken precautions. So I sent an email out, hey, here's the precautions that you can expect that we're taking on this Sunday. So it went that quick to Friday. I got invited to go to a Board of Health meeting and just kind of learned a little bit more about maybe what was happening or what, people were thinking at the time, what was the best insight, we could get in the council. So I came out of that meeting about lunchtime going, okay, yeah, we should not meet. And part of that's tied to the fact that we're a large church and that I felt some responsibility. So we tried to get out in front of it, and we decided not to meet before we were told not to meet. Right. And so that was March the 15th, that Sunday. So we actually came in here on a Saturday because we already had the service planned. We recorded that on a Saturday, which I think was a good decision because we said everybody's going to be online on Sunday, so let's make sure that we don't crash the interwebs and that kind of thing. And so we recorded in here on Saturday.
With no one in the room.
Right, no one in the room.
Super awkward.
And then that means on Sunday morning we all stayed home.
We did.
Which was really weird because...
That's the first Sunday in my entire, that I can remember my entire adult life that I've not been in a church on a Sunday where I wasn't on a vacation or something. Yeah. I mean, I've worked since I was 22. I've worked at a church, and so every Sunday this is where we are. I mean, this is what we do. All of our people are here, so it was definitely weird.
And I just block out every Sunday from about 6 till 2 anyway, and I just say I'm getting here early. We're doing our services. I'm gonna have lunch with somebody, and so to get up and just kind of be sitting. I mean, they don't know that we're doing this in our shorts and T-shirts.
Don't give away our secrets.
Church online, but. Yeah, it was just a different experience.
Yeah. So we closed the doors to the building, but we still had church online. And then once we watched one in the room with no one in it, we kind of made another pivot. So kind of walk us through that.
Well, I'm going to back up a little bit because after Sunday, we came in and do our staff meetings on Monday morning, and we're all sitting around in the room going, wow, what are we going to do now?
What do we do now?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Great. And so we put a bunch of Post-it notes up on the wall, if you remember, back in the kids' volunteer room. And we were just trying to say, all right, what does our church really need from us right now? What might our community actually need from us right now? And we just brainstormed, and we just threw a bunch of stuff on there and tried to see what was happening. And
still not knowing what we were doing.
Right, yeah. But we made some pretty quick decisions, and one of those was... Sabrina put together a team of people. Let's contact everybody in our church who's 60 and over, just to kind of build a network of support. We kind of moved some staff around, and I'll say this, and we'll touch on it again in a bit when we get to another story, but our staff is pretty amazing, especially in this regard that when there's a challenge for us, we tend to rally around it.
Absolutely.
If you give us something, say, all right, here's a thing that really needs to happen, we're pretty good at kind of dropping, whatever our area is supposed to be and go, all right, what needs to be done? And I think that happened pretty quickly. And so we started talking about how are we going to do kids online. We were fortunate enough to have you on our staff because Allison's always made our graphics and our bumpers in the past. And so now you kind of inherited the role of making sure we can film all this stuff and editing it and piecing it together and making sure that we were showing something. And so we really pivoted a lot of people and roles. We just said, hey, we're going to cut spending. We don't need to spend money because
there's nobody in the building.
But I also don't think we knew what was happening on the front end because I could be wrong about this, but I want to say 30% of all of our giving was happening in the room.
Right.
So we could not afford to be missing 30% of our giving every week. So I was like, I don't know what's going to happen, you know. So that was like something that we acknowledged, but I don't think we've ever had any fear.
No.
We haven't had any fear about the money side, so that's not what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
but
not at all.
and then we just jumped into let's learn everything we possibly can. And we're on Zoom calls, and we're in webinars. And
so many
we're
Zoom
calling
calls.
all of our friends around the country. They're calling us. And so, yeah, that was just the next couple of days really quickly.
Yeah. And then we had a moment where we said, for some reason, doing it in the room with no one in the room feels weird.
Yeah, recording the service.
Recording the service live in the room with no one in the room, when you're sitting at home watching it from your couch, it just doesn't seem, it just didn't feel like it connected for some reason.
Yeah, I think just like, all right, well, let's not go with lights and all that kind of thing because nobody has them at home. But I don't know how that happened. I think we were just sitting
just sitting around doing this.
Just sitting around going, oh, what if we mimicked, or tried to duplicate on our service?
We tried to match where people were watching from. Yeah, so we
So
made a
week
switch.
2.
Week 2, we moved into one of our elders and their wife to their house, and had some. That was one of my favorite shoots because we were absolutely piecing this thing together because we didn't know we were gonna be filming on site at all these locations, and so I had just a couple of video cameras of my own that we set up all around the room, and at one point I was crawling on the floor.
I think you can see it if you're watching really closely. You can see Allison go behind a couch at one time
to get a different shot. I mean, it was absolutely pieced together, and if you could see what was happening behind the scenes of what you saw at home, you'd be like, they have no idea what they're doing.
Yeah, they don't. That's so unprofessional.
So unprofessional. But but from that moment forward, we started filming in homes and just trying to match where you are, where our people were.
Well, so if week 1 was March the 15th, week 2 was March 22nd. But actually, before we even got to week 2, I came across this because I woke up one morning and it was probably somewhere around the 18th. I could go back and look at all this. But I just woke up and I was like, wow, I need to send a text to all of our staff and all of our elders. And I still have a copy of it. But it was just kind of one of those moments where you're like, all right, everybody just hit pause. Here's our number one job right now is to define reality. And let's make sure, and there was a couple of key things in there that I thought kind of got us stabilized to go forward. And so one of those things was we can't just tread water until we get back because we don't know when we're going to be able to get back. The other was we're about to find out, I hate to say this out loud, we're about to find out who the true followers of Jesus are.
Absolutely.
And so, we were reminding ourselves, hey, there are people on the front end of the spiritual journey who are jumping in because it's convenient. There are people who are core to our church and they're sticking with it, but there's this middle we're not sure about. And so the other part of that text, and then I'll answer the real question, is I told everybody to go ahead and start the grieving process, which was week 1, week 2, and just say, figure out what it is that we're losing here so that we can help everybody else figure out what they're going to be losing and we can lead people through it. And so it's something that maybe we can touch on in the end, but a lot of times as pastors, here's a little inside scoop for you, as pastors that we get a lot of our identity from what we do or how people respond to us or how many people are in the room, and suddenly there's nobody in the room, and it's just something you have to, you got to prepare for.
Absolutely.
So
this is nothing that any of us had any idea we were going to have to deal with or even knew how to deal with within ourselves. And
I can't remember if it was right there that second week or the third week where we decided let's try to capitalize on loving our neighbors.
Absolutely.
And we actually asked the Harbor Worship Center to jump in with us, and we did that Love Where You Live. But that took us to that third Sunday, and I don't know how we got there. I think we said, hey, maybe we need some professional help or something.
I think we recognized that we didn't really know what we were doing.
Yeah. We called somebody in who had some experience with it, and would you say he directed? He
produced,
yeah. He helped us film it, and here's kind of maybe what you should go for in terms of your service. But that was week 3, and I don't even know how to describe. This is super inside scoop. Okay, so you're about to hear it, but
you're about to hear the back.
It was that Saturday right before, so it would have been the 28th. So March the 28th. Me, you, Carlos, we had a text thread going all day, like
about 10 a.m. it started.
Have you guys seen the worship service yet? Where's the worship service that we recorded? And we weren't getting it, and we weren't getting a lot of response from our professional help. And it got to be dinner time, and we're starting to panic, like, what are we going to do?
So
I don't
this
know
is
what time
Saturday
it was.
night. This is Saturday night.
11 p.m.
Yeah, at least.
I was like, what do you need? Like, we got to do something.
And we still had we had the video where we shot it, like the original file. We had it saved on a computer here at the church, and so my daughter was sleeping because obviously it's like
obviously
midnight.
it's 11 p.m.
So John comes up to the church at midnight, grabs the video off of it puts on a jump drive, and then drives it to my house. I meet him out in my driveway so that my dog doesn't bark and wake up my kid. And he hands me a jump drive of the service at about 12:15 at night.
Then you sat down
to edit
it's
it.
not an easy thing, and it probably took, 4 hours or so?
At least.
Yeah,
And poor
so
Carlos is texting me the whole time trying to stay awake, like, with
I'll
me
stay up
from
with
his
you.
house. I'll stay up with you, like, in solidarity. And
Yeah.
ended up turning that thing out at about 4 or 5 a.m.
Right.
I mean,
And I think there were just a lot of days, especially early on, and there still are, where we go, man, we don't know if we know what we're doing or not. And then we would sit in on a meeting with people around the country, or we would call our friends, and we would get off that call or that meeting and go, guys, we're having the right conversations.
Yeah, maybe
know,
we
like,
do know a little bit.
Maybe
what we're
a
doing.
little bit. We're doing it.
We're in the right
Maybe we
direction.
know more than what we think we do. We're doing okay. And so we actually, I think this is a cool thing we did. We actually put it out to other churches here in our community to say, hey, if you don't have the capability to record or a place to do it, come here. And we actually filmed some people doing their own service and help them get it out there. So
yeah, and that's an interesting point because we've been doing church online for years. I mean, many, like 8-10 years we've been doing it, but we definitely were just showing what was happening in the room.
Yeah.
Like, we were showing people at home what was happening in the room. We weren't really talking to people at home. We weren't really engaging with people at home. We really were just giving you a view of what you're missing by not being in the room.
Right.
And we made a pretty dramatic shift. So walk us through that.
You for not being in the
We
room.
were shaming you for not being in the room, but now we made a shift. So walk us through that.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting close to Easter, but I think it's just important to frame everything because I don't remember who brought it to my attention, but somebody asked the question, like, are you viewing this more as a disruption or as an interruption? And to define the difference between the two. So, okay, we got COVID-19. We don't know what we're dealing with. We don't know how long it's going to be. The interruption would be, okay, it's a step back. We got to hit pause, but we're buying time until we get back in the building. Right. So the interruption says everything's about just managing the time till we get back in here.
Right.
But the disruption part is, okay, this is somewhat, and I hate the phrase, a little bit of a new normal for us, because we all thought, all right, we might be back by Easter.
We for sure thought this was gonna be the best Easter ever. Like, first service back, everyone's gonna have missed
it's
it,
gonna be
and we were like, it's
gonna be
we
amazing.
were planning how many services? We were planning
we
like
were
5
talking
services.
about 4 or 5 at the time, based on last year, and so, man, we were just. I mean, the disruption part says we're here longer and we're not going back to what we knew in February, or at least anytime soon. Everything got turned upside down. But the question was, okay, well, what can we actually do now?
Right.
So this is new, and we're going to be here for a while. So there was a day, I don't remember, I want to say it was week before Easter, that we were all standing out in the I hope you all been praying for us because we've had some interesting times. But we were all standing out in the parking lot at the community center, trying to decide.
That was when the stay-at-home order was issued, and we were 6 feet apart.
Yeah, we were trying to decide how we could get cars back behind the football stadium, and then cars out front in the front of the community center, and then put a little stage on the corner
to do a drive-in.
And do a drive-in service. Yeah. So our whole staff was standing out there, 6 feet apart at
in
the
a
time,
circle, like
talking
nerds.
it through to see, what could we possibly do that. We'd actually done a lot of work to get all the permissions that we needed.
Yep.
We got approval from, the community center and the town to do everything. And then we were just like, man, the logistics are just.
It's too much. Like having my kids sit in a car for an hour with no ability to use the bathroom. I mean, it just became where the good didn't outweigh the bad. Like the challenges of it didn't outweigh what we could possibly gain from it. So
right, the shift that you're talking about that we made was at Easter though, where we said let's do it upright. How could we, not to give away any secrets?
Our contest is coming.
Okay, well, I don't want to say.
Okay, well, let me ask this. So the push pause real quick. We have another contest for you. This one, ice cream is on the line, okay? So we are actually going to have ice cream
Goes with the theme. I like it.
absolutely delivered to your house, okay? From Ritter's through DoorDash, like as long as you're local. If not, we'll just give you something else. They have a plan. But if you're local, we're going to have ice cream of your choosing delivered to your house. And so here is the question, okay? And our hosts online are going to pick the winner based on your response. What did we do differently at Easter online for online church than we did any of the other weeks? So what was different about our Easter service than all the rest of the services that we've done online? In terms of like recording it. Like what was different? Okay? So answer that in the box. They're going to host that for you, and then ice cream will be on its way to you.
Right. Well, yeah, we were all shelter at home at that time.
So things got more complicated because before we were gathering and like worshiping together, or like there was a handful of people who were in our band.
Well, it could have been easy if we would have just said, Carlos, record yourself leading worship at home, and
Right.
I'll teach something from my house, and we'll merge the two together. And I'm not saying that's a bad idea, because
Right.
a lot of people did that. They had to do it, and it worked. We all thought we could do better.
We did.
And Easter was that moment where, I mean, are the answers in? Can we?
They should be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, you can give it
So
away.
that's where we went to the Brady Bunch style
Brady Bunch
worship,
style.
and
The
we
Easter
actually
choir.
I mean, a lot of people who hopefully are watching jumped in on the choir part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
And
True
we-
Colors
we-
song.
We merged
yeah.
all that together. We shot the message from 3 different locations.
We did.
Now that was really interesting. I don't know if you want to share anything about like your experience there, because I wish Carlos could come tell the story, but
We were a bunch of creeps for that
yeah,
one.
we were actually downtown at
St.
the
Mary's?
waterfront. Yeah.
Mhm.
Somewhere between Langs and 401 West, and I shot that first like 8 minutes with my back to the river, and all I could hear were alligators back.
It was like alligators like making that chirping
then-
sound, and we were
you know,
like,
bugs biting me.
not only were we
mosquitoes biting you and
afraid for our
everything,
lives, but how do we get that out of the microphone picking it up? I mean,
but
it was
then we shot that second part
the second part, yeah,
over in the cemetery.
at night,
Yeah, at night.
like pitch black at night.
But the funny thing to me was Carlos had gotten permission from our security
Our
guy
security
here,
guy.
and he had gotten permission
DJ
from
Mills.
the correct authorities. He
Mhm.
was going to escort us down to the cemetery because we were shelter at home.
Yeah, and we were in
And
a cemetery at
yeah,
night.
he was going to get us in there, like a police escort of sorts. But Carlos, I think, had told him somehow there was a miscommunication on
Carlos
what day
told
we
him
were
the wrong
supposed
day.
to do it. And so we actually went in without him and
with
did our
camera
shot and ran
equipment
away.
and lights and total creeps.
But then he showed up the next day.
He showed up the
We
next
weren't
day and
there.
we weren't there.
But then it
So-
was the following morning. I want to say 6 a.m.
6 a.m. video
Yeah,
shoot.
we went
yep.
out and shot the other part.
Out at the bluff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
out
a
the
sunrise,
bluff, so-
sunrise service, and
But I
Ooh.
think that's when we realized like you had some real skills in putting stuff together. And I don't know how long that was taking you back then. When
that
we were doing
Easter
that.
video was definitely one of the longest. It took about 36 hours, like
Yeah.
start to finish,
That's
to
ridiculous.
edit that. It was lots of nights of like literally staying up all night and then sleeping the next day. I mean, it was. But I don't know. I mean, like just to give some personal, like it's been a long time since I've felt that proud of my work. Like not like pride in that sense, but of like I'm really pleased with what we as a staff did. Like I'm really proud of us. I'm really.
Right.
I was excited about ministry, and I mean I've been doing this for a long time, and not that ministry isn't exciting and people aren't exciting, but this was something new and different that I mean it was like my heart came alive. And then on Sunday to see people engage in something that we had created through technology, it just kind of stirred something up in me of like we can share the gospel through video cameras. And I mean that sounds so like, well, duh, people have been doing it for years, but it was like something in me was just stirred of,
Well,
I don't know.
yeah,
It's
it
just
kind of
different.
goes with what you led in with as far as we made an intentional decision to try to speak to people
Right.
online.
Online, yeah.
And to do it a little bit differently. And the great thing, one of the great things that we had going for us was we were already broadcasting
Right.
in the room, but we just shifted to say, I think that's where we say we can never go back. Like we
Yeah.
can never go back to just turn on a camera in this room and let you watch from somewhere. We
Right.
have to become intentional, because now we have a crowd of people who are coming
Right.
who may never, and again, they may actually even live in our county,
Yeah.
may never come into our building. So how do we connect with those people? And I mean, I know it sounds like pastor speak and I'm selling something. It's just true, that. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, that was it. We
everything
can't go back.
changed. I mean,
Yeah, we
and
can't
there's
go back.
something special about that day. I mean, Carlos had put together this tremendous Easter choir, and so across the screen flashed so many faces of our people. I mean, it was every person on the worship team. A bunch of people joined in we did like a True Colors, like a cover, and so it was just seeing all these faces flash across the screen that we haven't seen those people, and it was. I remember sitting in front of my TV, like at home by myself, like crying because I'm like, holy cow, like I feel Jesus in this. And I mean, how that happens through a camera, that's not us, I promise. That's not us. So
Cool.
definitely everything changed at that point. And then the next week we kind of got a cool opportunity. So walk us through that.
Well, I mean, it's probably your story to tell because you're the one that said we could do it, and then
Whoops.
and then you said, guys, we're doing this.
Yeah. So I mean, I can tell it.
Yeah, that's fine.
So we had a death in our community. And my child goes to Sugar Mill Elementary, and we as a church kind of like try to take care of them. Most of us who are on staff who have kids, our kids go there, and we just love Sugar Mill. A bunch of my friends teach there, and so I just have a heart for that school. And it was one of the fifth grade teachers, her daughter, who also happened to be a 911 dispatcher, was killed in a car accident like early in the morning, and we're a church that likes to help. I mean, I hope people know that. Like, we are just a church, and we are a group of people that when there's a crisis, like, we show up. Like, we're those people. We're going to come running towards you when there's a crisis. It's just who we are as a church and as individuals. And so I just quickly made some calls and said, listen, whatever you need, we will do it.
Right.
We will try to figure out during the global pandemic how to pull off a funeral
right.
for
social
distance funeral for a 911 operator that's going to have a full police escort. Yes, we will figure that out. You just let me know what you need. And so we did.
Yeah, I mean, they actually had to go through some hoops to get permission, I think, from the governor maybe to do it.
It was, I had to call the local people and get permission and say, hey, can we even, like, is this an option? Just family in the room, like, is this an option? Because initially I had just offered, like, hey, get your family in the room and we'll broadcast it. Because, again, we have the ability to.
Right.
And it just ended up turning into so much more. Like, it just turned into an opportunity to minister to an entire group of people across the country and locally, and one of our schools we love, and our first responders. I mean, like, it just turned into such an incredible opportunity to really, really serve our community. And
that's where I think, like, it's not revolutionary by any means, but just thinking, okay, this place is empty, but we have the ability to do something. Yeah. We lead with yes.
We lead with yes.
Say, all right, we'll figure it out.
And I'm bad about that. I'm quick to go, yeah, we can do that. And I'm like, I don't know.
So we spaced out our auditorium so that they could have 30 family members.
I think it was 30.
In here
we sat them by families and did it because at this point, I mean, there was still the stay-at-home order was still in place by the governor, and so we respect authority. Like, we're not gonna buck authority. We're not gonna like do things that we're not supposed to do. But we really wanted this family to be able to be together, and so we spaced it out.
Yeah, both these parking lots were full of first responders who were listening on a speaker
in the parking
outside or watching it on their phone. And that funeral has over 15,000 views.
Oh, it's far more than that.
And then
it's a lot. The police escort.
The escort you hit is getting close to 40,000.
Oh, 40,000 views, I think. Yeah, and I mean.
So it was significant.
And again, it's just it sounds very pastory, I know, but it is such an honor to be able to care for a family at their darkest moment. Like, that's who we run towards. Like, we run towards that, and it's a weird job, but we love it. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that just makes my heart come alive.
But so Easter was, I want to say April 12th.
Told you, numbers.
So that was 10 days after Easter.
Right.
So a combination of you're seeing what could happen on Easter with now we're doing a funeral. It really, you started to see what was possible.
Absolutely.
I think we all started to see it, and so it was that following Sunday, someone who had watched the funeral joined our online service.
Right. So she had watched the online service, then she tuned in the following Sunday up from New Jersey, and there was just something about the service and the funeral and all of it kind of combined together that made her make a decision for Jesus. And it made everything make sense to me. Like, I don't know. I hope we're all like this, but even in the middle of a crisis or even in the middle of a global pandemic or whatever, I always look for the good. Like, okay, what about this makes sense? Because God promises I'm going to work everything together for good. So, like, if you're going to I like to challenge him. I don't know if you're supposed to do that, but, like, you said it. Like, you said you're going to work everything together, so, like, where's the good? And for me, that was the good. Like, that was, if all of this COVID stuff happened for that, And that would be worth it for me.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, that would be worth it. So,
And I think more than just saying, okay, I don't know if we can say her name. More than just saying someone watching several states away has responded, amazing, and celebrate it. I said, well, let's send somebody up there. How can we get up there
I said, I'll go.
and tell her story? Let's record her story, And she said, you had all the exchanges, but she's like, no, I'm going to come down there so you guys can do it.
She wanted to be baptized here, and so she drove down. I baptized her over in Connection Point, and it just was a couple of other 911 dispatchers were here celebrating with her, and it just was a moment where I was like, holy cow, online church works.
Yeah,
like,
it works.
It works. Like, someone watched a service, connected with Jesus, made a decision, and was baptized because of church online. I mean, so again, it's not for everybody, but for that person, it was perfect for her. It was perfect. So it just made sense. We can't go back, kind of thing.
Yep.
So then another pivot.
Yeah, well, then we, and again, the timing, exact dates on this kind of stuff is a little fuzzy, but when the news story started catching up with Ahmaud Arbery, and
in Brunswick, which if you're not from here, that's local for us.
Right, that being so close to home here, followed quickly by George Floyd, up in Minneapolis, just becoming a hot topic, not just in our church or our community, but nationally.
Right.
And getting a lot of traction. It just felt like, okay, this is a little bit different. We, it all just kind of came together at the same time because we had planned later. We had talked about this for a while. Hey, let's do a series this year that was really directed at politics, and let's do it closer to the election. Called Separation of Church and Hate.
Right.
But just when everything like that just started breaking, it was like, all right, well, let's just pivot and let's go for it. And so we
were just seeing so much pain, pain surfacing in our African American friends and our white friends, like in all of our friends who were caught in it, in us. I mean, we just started to see so much pain coming to the surface that we're like, we have to acknowledge this. We have to talk about this.
Well, that was that time, like there mid-May or so, where opinions were like so strong about everything.
Very.
The virus, and I mean, we weren't even talking about masks back then, but it was just that polarizing stuff. And then you throw a racial tension conversation into the mix,
and riots and protests.
Yeah, all that stuff. It was just like, man,
what are we doing?
Civility was a great thing to talk about, and landing on unity, humility, all that stuff. But it was like our people, even our community, really needed to hear something. And I think I just definitely a takeaway for me. I think I have always been, and I'm speaking completely unscripted here, so you better hold on.
Buckle up.
I think I've always been the kind of person that didn't want to get too involved in my opinions, and just being what I consider to be an influential church in our community, our county. Never wanted to steer somebody wrong, with like my personal take on something, but then I think I need to probably I need to find those times where, okay, this is something that's important to maybe really speak on. Sure. And
but it's hard. Like, just to give some background, it's no matter what you say, you're upsetting somebody. Half our church are Democrats, half our church are Republicans. Some of our church is white, Latino, Black, Hispanic. I mean, we have so much mixed in there that no matter what we say, somebody's going to get upset. And so, I think we've been trained, like, we'll just, fly below the radar, but this became something we really couldn't fly below the radar on.
Right, yeah. So I'm continuing to learn, how to handle all that stuff and the best way forward. I had listed a couple of personal steps I was going to take.
Right.
I shared that in a message here. The one that's a challenge, and I'm still trying to find a way forward, is connecting with some other churches and pastors here in town. Let's really learn from one another. So I'm hoping that's gonna break soon, and we're gonna be able to join and come together on that.
Yeah. So I think it ended up being a really cool series for our church.
Yeah.
We may not have said everything right. We may not have said everything perfect. We may not have made everybody happy, but I hope that our church heard we were trying. Like, we're trying to have this conversation. We're just trying, and I think sometimes that's the best we can do, is like try to seek the Lord and then try. And we definitely did that. So So then we're starting to spin wheels of our numbers in our county are kind of staying low. People are starting to relax a bit with regulations. The stay-at-home order has been lifted by our governor.
Yeah, if you've forgotten, it was happening, and it wasn't that
Mhm.
long ago.
Yeah.
It was. We took those last 2 weeks of that
Right.
series, Separation of Church and Hate,
Mhm.
and we decided it's time to move back into the building because,
Right.
like you say, yeah, it looks like it's okay.
Right. People are
and
starting to calm
we're about
down.
to emerge, right? And
Mhm.
so that was June the 7th, the first day.
I
June the
promise he doesn't have a calendar in
June,
front of him.
June the 7th, we did that first one. And what we
Right.
said was, hey, let's invite everybody who's on a serving team who
Mhm.
volunteers to come back into the building, just get reacclimated.
If they want.
See some people, right, if you're
Right.
ready for it. And we just simply watched the service that we had
The
already
first week, yeah.
recorded. We watched it together in the room.
Mhm.
And so that was a first step. And then the second week, we stepped into it and invited everybody who serves on a team to come back in. And yet we came early,
Right.
and we met with our teams, and we did some retraining and learned some new protocols. And then we came in here, did a live service.
Right.
But if you weren't here in the room, it was the live service of what we had already recorded. So that was still happening out
Mhm.
there.
And we loved it. Like it was cool to be back in the room. Like after
Yeah,
not being
each
here for
week
a
got
while.
better.
It got better. It was still a little bit weird. Like you'd come in and the first week we didn't have coffee or anything out 'cause we weren't trying to spread germs and people were masked and you couldn't hug each other. I mean, like it just still was a little bit weird, but
Yep.
it was good to be together. You
Right.
know, it was good to be together.
So then that third week, which was Father's Day, we did essentially a soft opening.
Right.
And we opened the doors. We did kids for preschool through 5th grade.
Mhm.
We asked people to pre-register so we could make sure we weren't too crowded in here
We
in
did a
this room.
cornhole tournament.
Yep, did cornhole tournament. We
John did not
uh,
win.
Had the DJ out there.
DJ Mills.
I let some other guys win in the end. We had some food trucks out there, and it felt like a good start. I mean, we had probably 375 people here on
Right.
that day. Give or take a few. I don't
Mhm.
remember exactly how many it was, but
It felt full though 'cause we still have all the chairs spread way out, you know, to put some social distance between people.
yeah.
So
And from a lot of what we were hearing around the country,
yeah.
like churches who had started to come back and meet again, you know, they were saying, all right, about 30
Right.
to 35% were coming back. So we kind of fit right in there.
Yeah.
But we had kind of expected that too.
Right.
So yeah.
Sure. So then
Yeah.
we're heading towards opening. We have a date to
Well, we did it again the next
yeah,
week.
we did it
Same
again.
thing.
Same
yeah.
thing. And then we had a date in mind of like, okay, let's not register anymore. Let's just open up the doors
Right,
and
yeah.
whoever
July
wants
5th.
to come can come. It was going to be July 5th. And then
And then it wasn't July
and
5th.
then it was
so
not July
yeah, our
5th.
plan at the time was, hey, we're gonna open up. You know, we'll still try to respect some distancing as much as we can. We had even talked about adding some rows in the front, but then leaving the back spaced out so
Right.
people could have their room. Get back to doing kids ministry, but
We were going
uh,
to serve coffee to you, so
right,
you didn't
yeah,
have to touch. I mean, we
serving
had
coffee.
some stuff in place.
Things, no more pre-registration. Things are starting to
Mhm.
ramp up a little bit. Honestly, though, we were running into a little bit of a challenge with volunteers.
Absolutely.
So volunteers in, like in our guest services area were like eager and excited because that's
Very.
what they do. I can't wait to
Mhm.
get back with people. But in our kids area, there was a little bit more caution. So we're trying to talk through all that stuff.
Mhm.
But July 5th was going to be the
Mhm.
day that we did that.
And we thought the military would be released at that point.
Right, yeah.
'Cause the military, I
What?
mean, if you're not from here, we sit right next to a Kings Bay submarine base, nuclear submarine base, and they've had orders down for a while to stay home, which has
Right.
affected a lot of our people. We have quite a bit of military people who attend our church, so
Right, that
we
was the
thought they'd
plan.
be released by then.
That was the plan, July
Yeah.
5th, but the day after the last soft opening, so
Right.
June 28th, so the day after we got word that one of our staff family members was being tested,
Mm-hmm.
and then Thursday morning early we're like, yeah, he tested positive. And so I was fairly certain that one of us was
I
going
had
to as
thought
well.
for
I mean,
sure.
the amount of time that we spend together
Mhm.
and that, we have a lot of firsthand contact.
Right.
So that Thursday morning, so immediately we run into crisis mode again. And
Of
it's
what
like,
do we do
oh,
now?
No. So I think I sent a text to everybody like, here's a short-term plan, what we're going to do. Number one, everybody goes to get tested
Which
ASAP.
Which no one was excited about, and I'm pretty sure that John took the last
I took the
swab
last
that
throat
goes in your
swab,
mouth.
which was amazing.
Uh-huh.
So.
Everybody else had to get the up the
Yep.
nose thing.
Everybody go get tested, and then we had to hit pause on the services because we didn't know. We
Yeah.
canceled it. The great thing is by Saturday, did everybody know by Saturday?
I think so, yeah.
That all those tests had returned negative.
Carlos
so,
and I were the last ones, and we were like,
and,
everybody else got it back, and we're just
Yeah.
waiting on us. So
and I think, I asked my wife to do it, Chris,
Right.
and so she was kind of on the back end of that too. So,
Mhm. Yeah, so we all got tested, which is
yep.
it's just a weird thing. If you've not been tested, if you've not been exposed and gone to get tested, it's
Right.
unnerving sitting there and hitting refresh on the portal to see if your test results are back
Right.
yet. To think how many, and then thinking back, like, oh my gosh, how many people have I been in contact with in the last stretch that
Right.
I might potentially have to call and say, hey, heads up, this is going on. So I mean, it was
Right.
weird.
I had to notify a lot of people that this,
Yeah.
you have potentially
Yeah.
interacted with, somebody.
Absolutely.
So we did that July the 5th. We canceled. We said, let's do it for 2 weeks. That's
Right.
July the 12th. We did that. That was last Sunday. And we moved everything back to 100% online.
And here we are.
Yeah, here we are. But, I think that's an interesting thing just to talk about for a second is it was almost easier way back in March to do 100% pivot, go online only than it was what we've been doing the last couple of weeks,
Absolutely.
running these parallel paths where we're trying to do in the room and online. It's just, it's been a challenge.
Yeah.
So
It's hard to know what the right thing to do is. I think our school system is having that conversation. Businesses are having that conversation. We are certainly having that conversation of there's so many opinions on both sides. What in the world is the right thing to do? And at the beginning, it was very clear. Oh, you shut down. Everybody's shutting down. We close the doors. We go online. And it was just very clear. And so 100% of our effort then went online. And now we're trying to do both and splitting our efforts. And and there's only how many of us? Our staff is very small.
But then when you consider, like, how much effort are we going to put into trying to provide all the services we used to provide and get 35% back?
Sure.
That's a great 35%, but at the same time, could we put more
And our military got
energy
ordered back
elsewhere?
home, so they still can't
Right.
come. So we still want to serve them, even though they can't physically come in our building. So it's definitely a challenge.
Right.
So that brings us to today.
Yeah, today.
So what is the plan?
Today is...
Ask us again tomorrow, though. We might have a different one.
I know the Sundays. What's today?
Today is the 15th.
Today's the 15th.
Wednesday.
That's right. Yeah, Jordan, our son's
It's
birthday.
your son's
Jordan.
birthday.
Yeah, Jordan.
Jordan.
Yeah, I think we know that we're in it for a while longer.
We are.
And especially as there's more and more debate on, what's really happening and distrust and all that kind of thing. And we know our military have their orders where, at a basic level, need a mask.
Sure.
Or the people that are around need to mask.
Right.
Not to be in groups of more than 10, all those kinds of restrictions. When you think about just our numbers of volunteers, people who serve on our teams.
Right.
So, we have to make sure who can actually
Who
be
can
in
be
a
in the
band
building.
or who can be, in a certain room and all that.
Right.
What about a guest experience
Yeah.
when we come back? It's like we all value, having a good guest experience.
Because we've had, this past Sunday,
had a
for
lot of
example,
guests,
we had somebody drive by the building and want to come inside, discovered we were, can we tell this? I guess we can.
I think so.
Yeah, so I just asked permission in
might
front
be
of you guys,
watching.
but I hope you're watching.
Hey.
But we had somebody drive. Hey, we had somebody drive past the building and try to come inside. Couldn't come inside because we had closed the doors and went online.
Right.
She went back home, searched online, found us, watched online, accepted Jesus, and is being baptized Saturday morning at 11.
Yeah, so
So that was just this past Sunday.
Right.
These are real stories of real people
Right.
driving past our enormous sign, which we put up on purpose so that no one can ever say they didn't know there
Right.
was a church back here. So
yeah.
these are real stories. So yes.
Yeah, so as of today, this being Wednesday, what we're going to do is that we are actually going to open the door for the 9:15 service,
Correct.
and we will not record live, we'll broadcast live the 9:15 service. So what happens in the room goes out to everybody who's watching, to the church online community.
Correct.
We're not going to do kids. We're not going to do cafe. Nobody's actually going to be here serving in any capacity. And that just goes back to what I was saying about there are people, and I understand that, who need to be here. We need to be around other people. We want that experience. Like we've been hurting a little bit, and we need to get back in some kind of a corporate setting. So
There's some very lonely people out there right now,
Yeah.
for sure.
yeah, so
Isolated.
we're going to open the door. You would basically be coming in sitting down and understanding that we're not here to cater to you, but you can worship with us
Right.
while we broadcast our service. So,
Yeah.
again, no kids, no cafe, none of that stuff, no stickers. Like
Yeah.
our staff and volunteers who are here will be masked,
Right.
and we would encourage you to do that. And then we're going to put I think we have a pre-registration
Yeah, so you
link.
can right now. Our
So you
hosts
have
are
to
actually
pre-register for that.
our hosts are actually right now. They'll drop the link in the chat box for you, where you could register for that 9:15 service. There is a cap on it because again, we are trying to respect authority
Right.
and do the best we can to be good neighbors. I mean, that's always been in front of us. Is we don't know what's right or wrong. We just want to be good neighbors, and so
Right.
that's what we're going to do. And so yes, click that link. You can register for the service. 9:15 this Sunday, but we will also have all of our services online later.
Right.
So if you want to watch live with us, like online, it's 9:15, 11, 5, 7, and 9 p.m. And so those later services are for our friends who watch in other countries, which we have. We've had an
It's
Italy
amazing,
so
yeah.
far. We've had I almost said Canada, but that's not the right word. We've had a Canada, and right now we're actually going after some of our Navy bases and other countries because hopefully one day they'll have orders here and they will already have a church they're connected to. And so
We've
that's
seen that happen too.
the reason. So at this point, you can watch our service really any time you can have church.
Right.
So if that's you, link. But what that leads us to is something that we're going to try to roll out soon. Watch parties.
What is that?
Watch parties.
Oh, is that next?
It is next.
Okay, so watch parties. So I guess I want to not back up, but let me set it up this way just to say when we got the word that we've been meeting and trying to ramp up to coming back to meeting more fully, and now we're not. So we had we've had these 2 weeks off. Then we kind of went back to the drawing board to say, all right, let's just kind of establish some short-term goals.
Right.
And so
in light of what's happening in our community.
Right. And so the first one that I outlined was let's put our biggest investments in our biggest returns.
Sure.
So when I talk about running these parallel paths, that's why we made the decision to say some people need to come back to worship,
Right.
but the amount of energy and effort and staff hours that would go to making it our normal experience didn't seem worth it. Hopefully you understand what I'm saying, but you're all
You'll
worth
get there.
it.
Hold on.
Right. Just to say, all right, at a minimum, we're going to open the door. So let's make sure we continue to put our biggest investments in our biggest returns. The second thing that we were going to try to do was we're going to we got to find some new and better ways to increase engagement for more and more people.
Right.
Because if we're not meeting, we have hundreds of volunteers who now aren't, getting their weekly serve on, and
Right.
so there's ways in which we can now continue to reach out to our community and the county, and so we put some cool stuff together that we can share here in a second. And then the third thing was let's make sure we take a step of faith that's centered around strategy
Sure.
and our mission,
Yeah.
and that's kind of where we landed on watch parties. And so we're looking for people who would, and if you're ready for it and comfortable, right, with all the guidelines and things, being safe and all that, who could host a watch party. And you can choose to do it live. You could choose to do it at another time, if you would rather do a Sunday night or whatever. But it's as simple as making your space available, living room, back porch,
Local park,
yeah,
business you
local
may
park.
own.
But you'd be willing to invite a neighbor, you'd be willing to invite a friend, you are already in a small group, your group can get together, or you would just say, hey, we will be Christ Church in wherever,
Yeah.
Laurel.
Yeah, and this can be anywhere. I mean, let's say you have a business that doesn't open on Sunday. Open that
Yeah.
thing up and let some people come in and have
Right.
church.
Yeah,
I mean,
you
it
just
could,
have a watch party.
we want to be creative with it. Like, we want to say, gosh, where all can we put a church?
So it still kind of, keeps that small feel, but you can gather with some people.
Right.
But it's really a strategy piece. It's really a mission piece, because now that we know that church online works,
Right.
like there's a ton of opportunities out
Yeah.
there.
And
So,
when you think back on the history of this church, that's how this one started. I mean, our church started with a bunch of people gathered on a porch watching a service from somewhere else, and it grew into this. And so we would love to commission our same people to go, okay, now what?
right,
Can you gather with a group of people and grow so big that we got to find you a bigger space? Like,
right.
like you do it, and we'll figure that out for you. Like, we'll come alongside you.
And we put together some ideas
Yeah.
and guidelines, and here's what we're talking about, what you would do, and to coach you through the process. But I think it's a cool opportunity to take advantage of right now.
Right. So yeah. So if that's you, if you're interested in hosting a watch party, our hosts are going to drop a link into the chat box right now that just says you're interested. Okay. And then someone from our team will contact you this week with some more information. So even if you're on the fence, like I don't know, I would need some stuff like some chairs or some way to display the service or some speakers or anything. Go ahead and click the link and sign up for it, and we'll get in touch with you and we'll help walk you through that. What exactly that could look like. And so sign up for that if you're interested at all in hosting a watch party. Military people, this is a great opportunity for you because my understanding is you can't be in groups of more than 10. So keep your watch party to 7 or 8, and be together. Like, let's get community. We were not meant to do life alone. So that's hopefully what is solving this. And then the second part of that is if you're interested in serving somewhere, like if you're at home and you are still interested in exercising the gifting that God has given you, which, I mean, I think this is an old Perry Noble quote, but it's that the servants always see the miracle first. I didn't even tell you I was going to say this, but that's like always my favorite thing that's in the back of my head of it's the people who are serving who see the miracle first. And it came from the story of Jesus with turning water into wine, and it was the people at the party didn't get to see the miracle. It was the people back in the back serving. And so that has always been a principle that I've tried to hold dear of like, man, it's the people who are serving online right now who are getting to see the decisions that are being made. It's the people who are sitting behind video cameras when we're filming who are getting to see church online work. It's the people sitting in our broadcast room that are making church happen right now. And so if you are interested in serving right now, we would love to put you into motion. There are things that you can do from home. There are things you can do from another part of the country. There are things you can do really anywhere. Yeah. And from this building, if you want to come in the building and help film.
I'm pretty sure somebody who's in our online chat right now hosting is doing it from out of town.
Absolutely. So, yeah. So we would love that. And so if you're interested in that, our hosts, they're going to drop a link in there too where you can sign up to serve somewhere. And we mean right now. Like, we don't mean when the doors to the building open back up. We mean right now. If you want to exercise some gifting and serve the church, the online church somewhere, we would love to put you in motion. So click that link, and we would love to do that. So, so then what?
I don't know. What do we got?
So groups?
Groups?
It was just a couple of things that you took. So I guess we can move to what you've taken away.
Going along with those 3 things that we outlined, one of them was how do we get more and more people engaged in serving? And that doesn't mean here because there's not much happening here. So I'm sure I heard of somewhere else, but I just said, what if we did more acts of love and service in our community than we had cases of COVID?
Yeah.
And at the time I had the idea, we had 200, and now I think we're looking at 300. So we're looking at 300 acts of service and love in our community, and so we put together a pretty extensive list of things that we're just saying, hey, would you do one of them or 2 of them?
Anybody can do. Your kids,
right,
you
there's
as
some
a family.
For kids, things that cost money, things that just are sweat equity, and so I think we got
the list is ready.
Too, right?
Our host will drop that link in the chat box as well, and so all this will be here for a while, and then we'll post these online after we're done as well. But
how cool would that be, though? We did more acts of service in our community than we had cases.
So it'll actually be called Acts of Service. You can go online, you can look at the entire list of things that you can choose from, and then you just pick one, and then you go do it. Like, that's the extent of it. It's that. It really is that simple. So.
Right. So your thing about the groups, though, is I want to make sure we get it all in. Really takeaways that I've had, just church takeaways through all this. One of them is we have to have a better way to track our people.
Yeah.
And so, I'm not going to expound on it, but
we don't take attendance like on a Sunday morning, and so there's no way of actually knowing who we have.
Yeah, and 2 was groups really need to become more a core of our church.
Right.
And so more than just offering groups, because if you haven't been in a group and you don't have those relationships, those are the kinds of, there's a certain kind of person that can get lost in all this if you don't have those connections. And so we have groups that have been happening virtually. There are some happening right now. You can jump in easily. Do it from home. Everything's online right now. And so you could jump in on a message-based group, which is, hey, we watched the message, and now we're going to talk about it. So there's some cool groups.
The thing about groups is that you don't ever need a group until you need a group. Does that make sense? Like, you need you're in the middle of a crisis. You're like, man, I really wish I had some people to rally around me. Well, then it's kind of too late at that point. So you don't need a group till you actually need a group. So get in a group. So we have some virtual groups. That link will be in the chat box as well. If you're interested in taking a look at those, you can jump in one right now.
Yep. Third church learning is that average people need to learn how to share the gospel.
True.
And I just don't know, how long we're going to be in this, but we know it's going to be something else in the future. So, we have said, come and see and sit with me for a long time.
Right.
And when you can't come and see and sit with me, and now you're having to watch with me, I would love to see more and more of us become equipped with how to do that.
You need to write that down because I don't think you've ever said that to me
And
out
then
loud.
the fourth one is digital. Digital opportunities are real opportunities, and we've seen
Right.
that. So
Yep.
those are just church takeaways.
So I would love just real quick. We only have a couple minutes left, just to walk through like for you personally. Like, I mean, we've been through a lot. Like,
It's a ton. It's a ton, and I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just going to breeze by a lot of this stuff,
Mhm.
but just again to kind of set the stage. So one of the things I decided back in February was to hire an executive assistant,
right.
and so we did that. And so Callie Kennedy, we hired Callie to come in and do that, and I was trying to figure out exactly what the role was, but her first day was the Wednesday after we canceled the first service.
And you closed the offices.
Right.
Mhm.
We knew she was going to join us. We just
Right.
didn't know everything that was going to happen at that point. So we stole her away from the DOD. We quickly labeled her as the director of operations. It's been a super huge help for us
Yeah.
around here. It just came at a time though where she's super excited to get going, and now we're not just working in the moment.
Right.
We're working on the organization, if that makes any
And
sense.
we're doing it through Zoom calls every morning.
Right. So
at
every
9 a.m.
morning we're doing Zoom calls, but so now we're working on, we're not just working on the
Right.
issue. It's like now we're realigning things in the organization. We're, working on budgets and all that kind of
Right.
thing. And she's the right person to do all that. But, we're working on the building. We're working
Right.
in the building, around the building. I mean, we built a playground in the middle of all this.
And a basketball court. And
Yeah, I have a daughter that got married in the middle of all this. There was just a lot happening. I would call friends sometimes, other pastors, and they would be like, "Man, are you enjoying the vacation?" And I'm like, "I don't know what you're doing
Yeah.
up there, but I feel like we all have worked more
Absolutely.
during this than maybe even before that." But I I don't know who. I probably stole this from somebody too, but they're just talking about the whole thing. Pastoring in this, and pastors are not unique. We're not looking for sympathy by any means,
Right.
but you just feel this sense of exhaustion because we didn't know we were running a triathlon.
Right.
And so it's like we got to the end of the run, and we thought we were done, and someone hands you a bike
Right.
and says, a little bit later, you're going to have to swim.
Right.
And I just thought I was going out for a run.
Yeah.
And
We've hit so
it's-
many different pivots in this thing.
Yeah.
I mean.
But I love the challenge. I love the dreaming. I love the experimentation. But I'll speak personally. I hit a moment about, oh man, I don't know, April, no, 1st of May, where I was just drained.
Right.
And I mean, we were on Zoom calls and phone calls and house party 4 or 5 hours a day, just talking. If you ever go, man, they didn't think about that very long, I can assure you that we thought about it a really
Probably
long
way
time.
too much.
And we discussed it a ton. And I made 2 decisions. One was I got to the end of the day. This is completely frivolous. I got to the end of the day and I was like, man, I need something to laugh at.
Right.
And so I started watching The Office again. And I'm sad to say I have finished it now during the virus, all 9 seasons. The other thing was I was like, I need time alone. And so I started playing golf a lot.
Yeah.
My score does not reflect it, but I would just on an afternoon go, man, it's 4 o'clock. I can go play 9,
Right.
and I would go walk and play 9, and that headspace was really good for me. And just finding those moments to
Right.
go, we got to take care of ourselves so we can take care of everybody
Yeah.
else. But
So we had a couple more staff transitions. Do you wanna
yeah,
talk?
we moved a bunch of people around. Well, let me just say we had an elder transition. Kevin Lang, who's been, he is Christ Church from the very beginning. Kevin was actually scheduled to rotate off as an elder when I got here towards the end of 2018.
Right.
We asked him to stick around a little bit, just to help me transition, and then we had a lot of stuff happening in 2019. There was never a good time for it to happen. He stayed on a little bit longer, and just finally said, hey, I think it's time to go, and this is a good time to do it. So if you know Kevin, just thank him for all of his service. He's still going to be doing the things that he normally does. He just doesn't sit through a lot of the meetings.
Right.
So that was Kevin. We, someone like April, who's doing kids ministry for, several years now, we kind of redeployed her. She's still filming kids stuff, but now she's kind of giving leadership to groups, and we've moved people around. Ben Reed, who was our student pastor, is not on our staff anymore, and Ben's pursuing some other cool, not to give anything away, cool opportunities for him, doing ministry in different contexts, which means in addition to all this, we're looking for a student pastor. So we've been doing all that work. And we actually officially moved Allison out of a connections role to officially more of a digital kind of a pastor. So still doing graphics, videos, social media, helping us figure out
church online.
We're out of time, but we actually did a ton more than we've even said at this point, because we bought new cameras to make sure we could do a better experience. We changed to a different
hosting server
platform, hosting service, so it could be more reliable. We not to mention that we changed over our entire database and how we handle and track people and
finances.
And
switched our giving.
how we're giving, and so that may be new for a lot of you. And anyway, there's just been a lot of stuff, but not even to talk about like the things I would do differently, but So
it's been a long
we're going to
stretch.
honor your time. We're going to honor your time.
Yeah.
There's so much material here. I think if Allison and I, or some of us, were to do a podcast in the future, I don't know. Let us know if you'd actually tune into that. How about that? Would you tune in to hear more behind the scenes stuff?
We're pretty funny.
We might be able to make it happen. Yeah, because we knocked down a wall. We expanded our broadcast. We built doors back here in our kids' area. Just
painted.
A lot of stuff has happened. So
there's apartments across the street.
All that stuff at the end of the day, just a reminder, if you want to come for the live experience this Sunday, it is limited, and you need to pre-register for that. So
click the link.
I don't even know how to end the whole thing. Just
but we'd love to know.
I'm tired talking about it.
Yeah, so we'd love to know just really quickly. The chat will stay open for a couple more minutes, even after we sign off. And so we would love to know for you guys just to discuss at home. Tell us something that you have learned during this process, and we'd love to go back and watch it when we're done.
Yeah.
So if there's something you in particular have learned about yourself, about church, about anything,
how
we'd love to hear that. Basically do what we just did.
Yeah, and I'll just end on this. I think that God has more for us than we've even seen, and then we could even imagine. Yeah. And I think there's a more daring version of our church that's going to emerge. So I don't know what that means, but yeah, excited. So thank you guys for joining us.
We'll see you Sunday.
Yep.
Anybody